Welcome to the Winedown, an afternoon podcast where two techie blokes sit down over a bowl of wine and chat about what's happening in the world of tech. Enjoy while Scott and Nick open up about their week in technology.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Winedown. I'm here with
Scott.
Hello, Scott. How are you?
Hello, Nick. How are you going?
And as we normally start these things, where are we and what are we drinking?
Well, actually, today, somewhere different. We are in the Mossman Rowers Club, not to be confused with Mossman Rowers, which is actually somewhere entirely different.
I think this is the Mossman Rowers. I think you went to the Mossman Rowing Club.
That's lovely. Just very similar names. That's something we haven't solved with technology yet, has it?
No, we haven't. Heuristics are there, though. There are some smart technologies that solve it. I think that probably could have been a bit of a PBCAC, right?
I'm glad it didn't take me to Brisbane. or
you wouldn't have been allowed in until this afternoon.
Well, there you go. That's very true. So, yes, anyway, that was fun.
So for those of you who are in the camera, what we're looking at you right now is a beautiful ocean vista with boats and ferries, and it's lovely.
That sounds like you're describing the demo.
It is the demo version, but we can see a thunderstorm rolling in, so we'll try and do that.
Yes.
So what are we drinking today, Scott? Take us through it.
Okay, look.
What am I drinking, at least?
What are you drinking? Well, I actually gave you... this is something a bit out there as well. This is a cannonball. It's out of Sonoma. Oh, there we go. Out of Sonoma in the US. So Sonoma being a nice little wine region, about 20 minutes west of Napa.
Okay.
They do actually a lot of good cheese, I've found.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of places that sell cheese around the
This
Sonoma.
is a Californian wine.
This is Californian wine.
I know you might say Napa, and most of us might get it, but for those who don't, California.
California. It's like just north of San Francisco, about an hour.
Republican or Democrat?
For that area, it's very blue. Very blue area up there, I tell you. Well, actually, the whole state's very blue. Yes.
Okay, cool. So that's the wine. That's where we are.
That's the wine. It's a lovely red, actually. It's got some nice tones. And the funny thing is, the US reds generally fall into two camps. They're either very average or very good. The very average ones can cost quite a lot, but the very good ones cost even more.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's nice to know. So what are we talking about today?
So we had a bit of a think about this, and one of the common themes we've been going with clients about is how to enable their businesses to really fly using technology. So we've seen that, let's say we go to a sample client and they've got an old server sitting in the corner, they're running a local exchange, they've got some PCs on Windows 7, and they're trying to do some, run their business. They're saying, I know these computer things, we bought them 5 years ago, they're still here, they work, what's wrong?
They're not flying, are they?
They're not flying.
No.
There's actually a nice little slide we have that has these 4 sort of stages of business IT use, and I guess one of them is it starts to crawl, then you can get to walk, then you can get to sort of run, and then you can get to fly.
Excellent. They're not doing any of those. They're kind of crawling, aren't they?
Well,
really, at that stage?
we sort of try to explain this that you're in the crawl stage, or with a bit more effort, we can get you to the crawl stage.
Cool. All right.
But this is the biggest issue that customers don't understand what IT can do, and therefore they don't invest in it until it's really show me how can I improve my business? How can I get it doing more than I'm doing now?
Sure. So let's start at the beginning, right? At the beginning, in the crawl phase, we all say, because we have posh words in IT, we say you're using legacy systems.
Yes, we talk about legacy being anything more than like 6 months old, sort of thing.
Yeah, but what is a legacy system? Let's define it.
Let's think. Look, today, what's a good example of legacy today? Windows 7.
Yep.
Although still quite modern, I would say that's a legacy system.
Let's do Windows XP. Well, that's really legacy.
Very
right?
legacy, yes. Well, look, we talk about Windows XP, but I mean, that's like early
2002
plus. Yeah,
2002 was when XP came out.
But end of life sort of thing, 2013, 14.
Yeah, maybe a little earlier, but that kind of thing.
Earlier, yeah, but this is the thing. You'll find clients running, say, a copy of Windows XP somewhere, and you say, well, that's great. And it's the same sort of thing like Server 2008, Server 2012. So you're running something that's 10 odd years old. technology flies at such a rapid pace, how do you expect to innovate your business on technology that is nowhere near where your competitors are at?
So I think that's the point, right? Technology moves really fast,
Yes.
and people who adapt the latest and greatest technology get all of the advantages.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And just thinking, I don't think the desktop's really changed, means you're missing a whole bunch of advantages.
You're missing a lot of enhancements that have happened over the years, and you're not even aware of them, so you don't know you're missing them. And this is where a good IT provider will come in and say, look, here's how we can help you advance your business through the use of technology.
Cool. Get it. So legacy systems are really old things, and
Yes.
would we say on-premises is now legacy?
On-premises for your infrastructure in most cases is very legacy.
So running your own servers, having your own hardware,
Yes.
having your own disk arrays, having your own backups on premises. So a little computer room or a
Yeah.
data center, that's just legacy, right?
Yes, but there are some exceptions.
Who's going to qualify that? Are you going to talk to me about modern legacy?
Modern legacy. Well, yes, there's a theory.
There's a segue.
There is, however, a modern version of on-premises as well.
Okay.
It's called edge computing, and it's actually something we're going to cover in an entirely different episode.
Okay, we can do that. But also, there's people who've gone from having, 3, 5, 10 servers,
Yes.
all running different tasks,
Yes.
to now 3, 5, 10 servers running virtual machines and running
right.
way more than they were before for some reason, but we won't go into that.
Correct.
So we've got a bunch of virtual machines. Now, that's not cloud, right?
That's right. So I'm just watching the ferry pull up. That's right.
I'm actually watching the super yacht pull in, but
Narrowly avoiding the ferry. Gee,
yeah,
tell you
no,
what.
it's not doing so well.
There you go. So just look, yes, with the traditional legacy infrastructure where you've had physical servers on site running things, and you may have moved that to like a VMware or a Hyper-V environment where you're running virtual machines running those servers, but you still got physical infrastructure on site.
Okay.
And that's the question sort of now is why does it need to be there? And look, there are still some valid reasons why you would want to have local systems. And in some scenarios, if you think about running manufacturing environments that produce a lot of data at a site, and you need to do something to that data before you send it to the cloud.
I would say, though, the square kilometre array in South
Yes.
Australia that creates more data per hour than Australia created in 2015 in a year,
Yes.
they're doing all of that in the cloud.
How do they back that up?
Well, you don't back it up.
You don't back it up?
Anyway, let's not. We're not going to talk about the great backup debate because
Oh.
that is coming.
That's right.
And that's one of the arguments I'm going to use. So let's not go there yet.
Yeah, they don't just stick like a USB drive in the side and...
No, they don't. No, just
And look,
petabytes of data. When was
opportunity
the last
there.
time you went to Officeworks and bought a petabyte USB drive?
I think if you went to Officeworks and asked for that, you might get tossed in jail.
Yes, you might be. That's a bit rude. Anyway, so we've talked about modern legacy. Let's talk about these. We've talked about these kind of. What is the approach to modern?
Okay.
People think, I've got a bunch of friends who are accountants, and they think they need a server, they need their data there, they need the spinning Rust. It makes them feel more comfortable.
You
Talk
know
to me
what?
about modern approaches.
They don't actually need that. That is not the outcome they are after. That is their current thinking as to how they achieve their outcome.
So you need to decouple the technology you're using from the outcome you want to achieve.
You do. So let me give you an example around something. Let's say I've got a document here that we both just signed, and I need to send it somewhere. And you've got, I know how to do this. I have a fax machine. I'm going to fax it to someone else in an office somewhere.
Yep.
And there's another person over here that says, hang on, I've got a better approach. I can actually put this in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and send it in the mail. And I
Yep.
know it's going to get there.
Yep. Even if
And-
it's a ballot.
Even if it's a ballot. And I'm sure it'll arrive untempered with
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
plenty of evidence around that.
Yes, absolutely.
And then I'll say that there'll be someone else that'll say, hang on, I'm just going to take a photo of that and transmit the photo across the internet, or perhaps scan it and send the scan image. And yes, there are different times in which those arrive, and the ones more using technology to achieve their outcome get it there in a
So I'm going to
faster
send you an
time.
email with a link. You're going to click on it. It's going to bring up a copy of the document. You're going to sign it on your device, hit done, and we're all done, right? That's the modern approach to that
That's right.
problem.
And it's stored online. You've used technology to make that an efficient experience, rather than having to mail someone a document or physically take it out there.
Yep.
Get them to sign, then bring paper back, and now I've got a physical copy. What am I going to do? I'm going to scan it. Oh,
So that's an example of a modern approach. Another one is, and I see you doing this all the time, right? You guys use Xero.
Yes.
You've got a receipt.
Yes.
You take a picture of it. It goes into Xero. You remove the physical paper. It's gone. Ski.
That's right. And there's only one annoying part to all of this, that in most cases we still have to be given the receipt to take a photo of, to then scrumple the receipt up and throw it away.
You do.
Because people don't seem to like us taking photos of the cash register screens. So I get that. But
So we've used a bunch of terms recently.
Yes.
We've used like on premises.
Yes.
It's not on premise, right? It's on premises.
premises.
We've got to have that conversation, but we'll
Yes.
do that in the great backup debate, I think. We've got co-location. We've got private cloud, public cloud, community cloud.
Yes.
Before we talk about the clouds, because then I'll start rambling on about the NIST definition of cloud computing, which I'll try not to do today. On premises means what, Scott?
Okay. On premises is these are your premises that you own, you rent, whatever, and you've got a computer room in there. You've either got a closet with some gear in it, or you've got a room that you put air conditioning in, you've
Raised
got racks,
floor.
and you've got the whole. But your servers are physically at the location of your business.
Okay, so that's on premises.
On premises, which thus on
Your premises, yes.
on your
Co-location.
Co-location says, hey, these computer rooms are actually expensive to run in our own premises because we've got to have air conditioning, we've got to have extra power run in, we've got UPSs in there, we've got to, and then you may want to move, or you grow beyond the scope of how big your office space is, or you need to have a second office somewhere, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of cost in this that doesn't really add anything back to the business other than it's needed. So you would actually go and put it into a co-location facility, which is a big data center full of racks that provide massive redundancy for power and for cooling and everything, and you can actually use their facilities.
And one of those is yours, or half of those, or a bit of those is yours.
You can either rent space in a rack, would be shared, but it's well, that's good because you can sort of rent one rack unit, one RU of space. It's about sort of like that big. You can
19 inches across, 1 inch high, I believe, is the
exactly it.
standard. Call me old-fashioned.
The problem is you could also be in that rack with 41 to 45 other clients.
Yep.
Who then need to access that rack and hopefully don't bump your cables. And so,
Okay, so it doesn't remove all of the problem. You just some of the data centers done by someone else.
Yes.
Private cloud.
Private cloud. And just on the co-location.
Yeah, sorry, just Scott.
You've really just taken that stuff that's in your computer room and you physically just put it somewhere else in another building that's better suited to the purpose. You haven't really cloudized it. You haven't virtualized it perhaps, or if it was virtualized before, it's still virtualized now, but it's still running on your gear in most cases.
So same stuff, different office.
Yeah, you've just moved it somewhere else.
Yeah, cool.
Private cloud, yes. Okay.
Now, we're going to argue this, aren't we? Because I know the NIST definition of private cloud. And, go on.
The real version of private cloud. The version of private cloud we want to look at here is when you are using someone else's infrastructure to run your workloads.
But I can do that in public cloud as well, can't I?
You can, but there's a difference.
Go on. What's the difference then, Scott?
Well, what's the difference? So, with a private cloud, for example, let's say we go and we find a managed service provider that's got their own servers in a data center somewhere, and you're taking your VMs and you're running your VMs on their infrastructure.
Private cloud. I get it.
Cloud.
As long as it fulfills the 5 definitions of cloud computing, I'm gonna work with you on this one.
Okay. Which one does it fulfill?
Well, it doesn't fulfill infinite elasticity, does it?
Yeah, let's go look up what that means. Anyway, I'm sure that's the top of everyone's strategy. We must be infinite elastic.
Oh, I said the mattress salesman. But anyway, moving on.
Okay. So anyway, so that's the idea of the private cloud being you're just running things, but you're not paying for the hardware. Someone else owns the hardware, and therefore you've got some flexibility over where it runs. And maybe you work out that I want some of this running in Melbourne for disaster recovery purposes, somewhere in another state. So you don't actually own the hardware down there, but you're paying a fee for running the resource or using the resources that your systems are using.
Sure, I get it. Now, private cloud's part of this too?
It comes into it.
Public cloud. That's part of this too.
Public cloud comes into it. Public cloud is a different sort of scenario, though, where you don't own the hardware. You don't necessarily even know where the hardware is. And you are generally either running, for example, an application. Let's say Xero.
Yep.
And previously, you may have been running MYOB, for example, and you may have had MYOB on a server on your premises. Yep. And then you put that into a co-location facility, and then you actually said, I don't want this colo anymore, I'm going to give it to a provider, so you're running your own copy of MYOB. in a provider's private cloud, but now you want to go to public cloud, and you say, well, I don't want to know about hardware, I don't want to know about virtual machines, I don't want to back it up and restore and all this sort of stuff. Just sell me the application. Sell me the SaaS application, and I'm running it now in
Public cloud. Office 365,
Yes.
Zero, but also AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform.
And the dozen others that have...
And we won't go there, because I know you've been at a conference this week and you know all the names now. You know Ali Cloud and...
and depending on what country you're in, some are better than others for popularity, and yes.
So what's the share of these, Scott?
You know, it's actually quite interesting. When you look in different regions, like Ali Cloud is actually very popular in China,
right,
and some of the surrounding countries, but it's
almost nothing here.
Yeah, it is. They are here.
It's a 5-6% here, though, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't
is that too much?
I thought it was like point.
I'm trying to remember the pie chart I looked at this week. So.
Yeah, look, they are here, but what you find is that the clouds that are very popular in other regions of the world exist here to support those global companies that have offices here that need them to exist.
Sure. No, I get it. Cool. Excellent. So give me an example of someone that we've all heard of doing stuff like this.
How about... Well, actually, let's before we go there...
Before we go there.
I was thinking more about public cloud.
Yes.
And SaaS applications.
Yep.
Where we've got Xero, for example, as an example.
That's an example,
But as you've mentioned, there's Office 365, which is more of a platform to do things on.
Yes.
Because it's got all the...
It's still a SaaS application.
No, that's true.
Right?
You've got Excel,
lots.
you've got Word, they all run in a browser, and they all store your data in there. So you've got those, and they could exist, though, in multiple public clouds at the same time.
Yep.
So you're not just restricted to the one location now. You have different regions. And you can specify, in some cases, the region you actually want your systems to
Or
run
you can say, I want this in this region, this in this region, this in that region, this cross-region, this geo-clustered.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And this is the idea with redundancy, that if you're in a private cloud where you're hosting your own applications, or a third-party provider is hosting the applications for you, they've got to have a second private cloud somewhere to have redundancy or failover into.
Sure.
But ideally, if you're running modern applications, SaaS-based applications, the redundancy is built into the application such that if there's a problem somewhere, that's all right. There's another service somewhere else in the environment that'll pick it up and run with it.
So I think availability and redundancy is the big offering. Cloud computing, I remember 20 years ago, we were talking about things like ITIL and availability and service maps and all sorts of words, trying to help companies make things redundant and available. And it was,
right.
For most organizations, even the big ones, it was prohibitively expensive. But suddenly when you're a Microsoft and you've got millions of users using your platform, you can invest in all of the right redundancy, availability, Azure Active Directory that works, and all sorts of things to make things available. And to be honest, there've been the occasional glitch with Office 365, but I've been using that platform for 10 years, and I might have had in total 10 hours downtime in those 10 years.
I'm sure there's going to be scenarios under, it doesn't really matter what the scenario is, that you're going to have outages. Nothing is that perfect that it's always working.
Sure.
This is IT. Half the industry exists to support things that are out there.
Yeah, and we're always innovating, right? Things are always changing and growing, and things don't work all the time, right? We live in a real world where things break.
Actually, interestingly enough, because we're approaching Christmas, the communications embargo is about to hit. So that's sort of over mid-December to mid-Jan sort of thing is when the telco industry said, we're not doing any work, our people need a break, we're going to stop here and not actually provision new physical services, not going to dig trenches, not going to go to exchanges and pull gear out and run fibre and all that sort of thing. So one thing is, if you need services, get them in now, because you'll hit this window where there's just this 4-week delay.
Which nobody knows about till they try and order a service, right?
That's right. But the other part of it is, in the industry, it's actually the period of the year, those 4 weeks, give or take, that have the highest availability of all systems.
Oh, so if you don't change something, it doesn't break.
That's just it. No one's in there accidentally bumping a cable or pulling something out or tripping over something or bringing a server down by mistake. And,
I might have been able to tell you that, but
it's very quiet. Anyway, where were we?
Well, we were talking about. Tell me a big organisation that's actually doing this move from, legacy to modern. And I want you to pick someone who doesn't move very fast. Someone like a real a business that's been around for 100 years or so.
You mean like a bank?
A bank. Let's find a bank. Any banks doing stuff?
There could be. So the trick with the banks is that they've got a lot of applications that have been developed over time to help run the business. And once those applications get put in place, they tend to sit there and run because they're now actually part of the business process.
Yep.
But what happens over time is you start to get applications interspersed all over the business, trying to do bits and pieces. And you may find, look, these people deal with mortgages, these people deal with term deposits, these people deal with overseas investment, these people deal with hedging. They've all got their custom little versions of applications that they've written, and they accumulate. So NAB is actually one interesting bank, and they've actually come out and said...
National Australia Bank?
Australia Bank, yes.
National Australia Bank,
yes,
NAB,
National Australia Bank. They said, look, we've recognised this problem. We know we've got a lot of these legacy applications running everywhere, and they also need the legacy infrastructure to keep them running. We are going to migrate these to the cloud. They've come up with a bold statement that says we're going to migrate 1,000 apps in 1,000 days to the cloud.
And you know what? They're going to do it.
They will, I think, yeah.
Yep. Which is amazing because you think I've watched an accounting firm take a year to migrate one application to the cloud.
Yes.
They're doing 1,000 in 1,000 days.
And you'll think, okay, maybe they're a bank, they can throw like bucket loads of resource at this and that sort of thing. That may be the case, but you can only do too much change at a certain change in the environment at a certain rate. If you go and change, like today we're going to go and change 100 different applications, and you'll actually stop the business because they're not expecting that level of change. You've got to be very careful about how you manage everything. So it's bit by bit by bit. So it's actually an interesting exercise.
You're dead right. And it'll be interesting to see how the NAB go, but we know ANZ have done a bunch of work on this. They're replacing all of their paper forms, and let me tell you, they have a few. And so we watch this going through all these industries. So even the traditional large organisations are going from crawl to walk to run to fly. Now, before we talk about crawl, walk, run, fly, are we always in a position where we are flying for a bit and we end up crawling again and we have to climb the ladder again?
You know what? I'd like to think of the fly part as more of a leap. You take off and you've got this big leap, but eventually you start to come down.
But we see organisations, and to say that, but we see organisations that keep innovating. So I'll use a couple I know. They're in the tech industry. Okay. Microsoft's one, right?
Oh, yes.
They were responsible for Windows 3.1.
Okay.
Right? But they're also responsible for Azure and Windows 10 and Office 365.
Ah, extremes, right, yes.
So, but they've kept innovating.
Yes.
Facebook are now building their own hardware to keep innovating and keep moving forward.
And that's an interesting sort of thing we should look at some point in a bit more detail, because when you get to the point of what's their core business, and you think about, let's say Google, what's their core business? It's advertising. Yep. They do 1,001 different things, but at the end of the day, it's advertising. And they use your data to advertise, they use whatever else. But yes, there's little parts of the business that are developing hardware, they're doing all of this to be more prevalent in more places, to collect more data, to advertise more.
And they're trying to diversify and make more revenue streams, etc., etc.
Which is hard once you start to get to certain sizes.
It is. Give me an example of crawl, walk, run, fly.
Okay, so look, many years ago, we actually we had a retail distribution business that was a client. And they said, hey, look, we've got internet, we've got a few things. Our process at the moment is very physically based. So clients would turn up, they'd say, I want to order this. They'd actually fax at that time a purchase order through with all these items. Someone would go to the warehouse, pick them up and pack them up and put them on a truck and send them out. They said, hey, we want to use the internet to sell, so that we don't have to have our sales reps running around collecting orders. Well, we want to actually put our web store up on the internet.
Makes sense?
Yeah. Can you do that? And look, can you give us a demo of next week of what that would look like? We think, well, okay, hang on. Let's just think about this for a second. So you want to have a web store where we can do live ordering and then automate all these processes. That's the great mindset. You've now picked up what the internet is capable of doing. We can
what everybody's doing on the internet, right?
It is now. It is now. However, we said, okay, let's look at the first thing. Let's say we've got this site and it's working.
Yep.
A client's going to come along, they log in, and they go, I want some of these, 10 widgets.
Yep.
Great. How do we know if the widgets are in stock? We click on them. Right. What happens now? The website's there. How does the website know the widgets are in stock? Where do you keep this information now? I said, we've got this book.
Oh, no.
So what do you mean you got a book? It's a ledger. It actually tracks how much stock we've got everywhere. So you're actually writing numbers down in a ledger. I said, yes, and we've got quite a few ledgers because they've got quite a lot of different product ranges.
Oh, no.
Okay, so do you see the disconnect here that parts of the business need to be modernised in order to actually take to the next step, in order to get to then the next step after that? Because you can't have a scenario where someone clicks on a website and a little alarm goes off somewhere where someone has to run in and read a screen and say, they want to know how many of these there are. Quick, go look it up. Quick, type 10 and send it back.
You'd be surprised how many web platforms have that kind of stuff going on. But
this was
yes.
this was the old KitKat ad.
Yeah.
Do you remember when the automatic teller machines?
The person inside the ATM. Have a break, have a
That's
KitKat.
right. They'd actually go, here comes the transaction.
Trademark Nestle, by the way, but we'll move past that.
Okay. The person comes along, does their transaction at the auto teller, and a little bit of paper comes up on the inside. There's a person inside going, oh, they wanted to withdraw some money. Quick, and they give it to the second person. He says, go and get $20 out of the tin. Quick. Okay, shove it in that slot. Yeah, put it out. And I'll just get this little book out and write down that they've now taken $20 out of their account. Welcome to automatic teller machines.
Automatic teller machines with a little guy in it. So
that's right. But that is the idea, that you can't just go and all of a sudden go from crawl to fly in one go. The rest of the business has to come with it.
It does, and it's not. And you can have bits that move really fast, but you've got to bring the whole organisation with you, or you break your org. So I think that's
right.
The fundamental thing. There's lots of really cool technology. You have to bring everybody along for the ride.
Yes.
Cool. So that's been the Winedown. We're at the Mossman Rowers here in Mossman, and it's just about starting to thunder, so we're going to wrap up now. All I'm going to say is thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. If you do have a question for us, leave it in the comments below. Please subscribe to our podcast, which is down there, and I finally got the finger right this time.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed the event today, and we look forward to catching up with you. I think we're going to be catching up on Wednesday, aren't we?
Yes, next Wednesday.
Excellent. We look forward to it. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.